with this system all coming together. Well, thanks to our virtual view technology, I'm standing in LA where rounds of rain are going to funnel in and fuel a flood threat for Southern California. Now, you want to be on the lookout for coastal flooding. There's also the risk for landslides and mudslides. Ventura County needs to be on very high alert. The flood watches are up and the rain is going to continue for the next few days. Your morning commute this morning is going to be a messy one. Maybe give yourself not even just a little bit of extra time, but a lot of extra time. Just to give some perspective as to what we've already seen this month, you'll notice here as we're looking at the rainfall so far from October through November, December a little bit above average, January back down below average, but it's February where we've really seen this surplus adding up. Look at this, we're at around 10.5 inches of rain so far this month. Of course, we're just a little over halfway through the month, and we're about 6 inches above average so far since October 1st there in LA, so for the wet season. So you're really seeing this rain add up specifically this month, and that means that ground is saturated, and that puts us in the possibility for not only flooding issues, but the landslides, the mudslides, the trees coming down. You can see our forecast still to come. We've got that rain just pounding, especially those mountain areas. So in the mountains and the foothills, you get that rain kind of orographic lifting up over there, and that really helps that rain pour down. And then of course it adds to the fact, if you're ever driving through those hills, you know how hard it is when all the rain is also coming down. So that threat for flash flooding through tomorrow, LA up through Oxnard, down through Santa Ana, Newport Beach included in that. Just look at today. Here's your morning commute into your lunchtime, into your afternoon commute. This is continuing a steady pump of atmospheric moisture across LA up through the Simi Valley. We do finally get a break on Wednesday, and then Jim, of course, we're seeing that rain move through up past Sacramento, and as you mentioned, we have that risk for some rotating storms, a few tornadoes possible, and as we know, this area, that is not a common thing.
It is not a common thing, but we will watch out for that this afternoon and tonight. All right, so
of the rocks across the road, the flooding that's going on, so we have a couple more days to go of this.
Especially, those burn areas where we've had fires, you have that lack of vegetation, so everything is more susceptible to sliding downhill. Right now, the majority of the heavy rain is across the Central Valley of California. I see a little bit of lightning right there, but the low itself is still about to move on shore.
Now, as you're heading out this morning, you want to give yourself some extra time because the roads are going to be wet. This is going to be coming down during your commute. And as mentioned, we've already seen some of these reports coming in. Guadalupe vehicle stuck in floodwaters on 2000 block of Highway 1. Rocks across the Highway 101 there. So you want to be careful and cognizant of that as you're heading out, especially if you're heading out before the sun has come up, because that might be hard to see.
Yeah, and the winds are going to be increasing with this system. And even outside of that, you've got the severe threat across the Central Valley of California. Felicia, we can't rule out tornadoes with a Torcon 3 for today. You can see the wind profile.
When you have a shear profile like this, the winds with height there around Sacramento, you could have some storms with rotation. That adds an extra oomph to the atmosphere as well. So even if you're not getting, say, a tornado warning out of this, those damaging wind gusts could really mean business and cause some power outages.
Yeah, speed shear especially going to be a problem as those winds increase with height. Here come those rain bands moving in throughout the rest of this Monday morning. San Francisco, we saw rain over the weekend. We've got more rain coming through on this holiday. And yeah, the snow is going to be piling up too.
The snow is piling up in a big way, and those winds gusting as well. To know where you're supposed to go in your home if you find yourself under a tornado warning. When you're actually under a warning is not the time you want to be scrambling. Well, thanks to our virtual view technology, I'm standing in LA where rounds of rain funneling in and fueling a flood threat. We'll say that 5 times fast. Fueling a flood threat for Southern California. Be on the lookout for coastal flooding. There's also the risk for landslides, mudslides. We're seeing some indications, some of that already. Ventura County needs to be on very high alert. The flood watches are up and the rain is going to continue for the next few days. So it's not just a one and done today. We're continuing this into at least early Wednesday for a lot of these areas before you finally get a break. And because of that, we're going to see all of this adding up. We've got that risk for flash flooding. You can see here highlighted for soil that is already so saturated. We have had such a wet February. We're so far above average in terms of rainfall for, say, Los Angeles, that adding any more to this is just exacerbating the issue that we're already seeing. So when you're talking about rain for your morning commute, rain for your afternoon commute today, continuing overnight into Tuesday morning, another day of rain for your commute there in LA, both morning and afternoon. That's continuing into Wednesday as well. Now you'll notice by Wednesday lunchtime we start to see this breaking apart a bit. But by then, we'll already have picked up maybe a couple inches in some places. You can see some of that rain, especially as you look up into the LA County mountains out there. We're going to see inches adding up, and we could see locally higher amounts. So that forecast that you're just looking at, 2 to 3 inches, that is a broad brush. Now, we're looking at that snow and rain falling in the higher elevations here, Sacramento, San Francisco, just a few light showers around currently. But as Jim was just pointing out, we do have that risk for severe weather, the Sacramento Valley included in that. A torcon of 3 means a few tornadoes are possible, but all it takes is one at your home or where you're driving to ruin your day. So make sure you keep an eye on that weather. We've got the atmospheric profile, the winds with height really shifting and changing, so that is going to lend itself to rotating storms. Not to mention, we have gusty winds in the forecast, so even outside of, say, a severe storm reaching tornadic limits or reaching severe limits, those winds are going to be gusty anyways. You've got that wind advisory in Sacramento. Now, Southern California is on alert for this atmospheric river event that we're talking about. We have national correspondent Justin Michaels in Montecito, a place still reeling from deadly mudslides just 6 years ago. Flirting with the 80 is my favorite thing to flirt with this time of year. Perfect. All right, well, let's head overseas for Monday morning front lines. Wildfires are forcing. Yeah, not exactly what you want to be stuck in there, Jim. Of course, not just wild weather here, wild weather all around the world. Yeah, that we know about. So, Kelly, but you got to give props to the people out there working hard to get those flights going and get that airport cleared out, because that is not a fun condition to be out in for hours. I've watched them de-ice the plane. I'm like, get it all off. You know, wrong time, wrong place. Say you were driving where those trees were falling. Right. Terrible situation out there. Or the rocks. You've got big boulders that are coming down in some cases, and we've seen that around Santa Barbara County with a rock slide on Highway 101. Ventura and Santa Barbara counties are currently under flash flood warnings because we've seen 2 to 4 inches in a place like Montecito. Remember that big mudslide they had a few years ago? We're going to see those issues just continue because this rain is sticking around for the next couple days. This flash flood warning for Santa Barbara and Ventura County until 10:30, and this is observed. So this isn't radar indicated. They are seeing flooding where that flash flood warning is taking place. And all the way through 10:30, possibly beyond that. It could get extended depending on how the situation is, but it is going to rain all day. And you can see some of these reports already with the mud and the rock slides coming down the hillside. Even up towards Sacramento, we've had significant flooding in the valley. Yeah, when you're talking about the grounds being this saturated, maybe some burn scars, and then this much rain, it's going to create problems. But that's not our only problem that we have to think about. It's that severe threat that we have today for the Sacramento Valley, Yuba City, Stockton, Modesto, all included. Can't rule out tornadoes in this situation. If you look at the wind profile, the winds are increasing with height, slightly different direction, Felicia, so we could get some rotating storms in here. Yeah, of course, that adds to that element. You want to make sure you know where you want to go in your home, where is your safe place ahead of time. Don't wait until you find yourself in a warning. These storms can mean business as we head through the day today. Yeah, we've got the snow breaking up at the high elevations as well, where chains could be required. We'll be right back. Could get speared by a giant icicle. So I guess if I had to go, at least I'd go out in a really cool way by a 10-foot icicle. Stop it. I was trying to think, is there an angle here going by an icicle would be the way I love, but I guess weather that's the in angle. Some way, and there's the angle. Let's look at your forecast for flying the angle today, because we are likely to see some weather-related delays up and down the West Coast. Some of our major hubs impacted by this next storm system that's moving through, but you'll notice lots of green bubbles on the map. Otherwise, still that possibility for some delays for the Sunshine State. So maybe your flight was delayed or canceled yesterday out of Florida. You might want to check it again today there, at least Central Florida MCO. Still got a little lake effect shower action going on here, although that is starting to wind down. The temperature is giving you no help getting rid of the snow that was already on the ground, nor with this lake effect snow. So everything that fell is still going to be there with that cold that we've got in place. The roads could be a little slick in some places. Watertown over a foot in the past 2 days. There at the Buffalo Airport, just over 4 inches. So you can see that snow definitely not going anywhere, especially with temperatures like this. This doesn't tell the whole story, though. The temperatures are cold down in the teens in Watertown and Burlington, even Boston. That's a, not crazy start for you, but a chilly start to your day. By midday, temperatures do not warm a whole lot, but we've got some wind coming along with that, especially for upstate New York, around Vermont. You've got a little bit of wind that's making it feel a bit colder than it actually is. We're really not warming a whole lot today. And as we look at another place that's still dealing with a lot of the same conditions, you've got that rain from Daytona Beach down through Polk County, Sebring getting in on that. So it's been a messy time in Florida too, just not the cold, messy time.
Showers sticking around a little bit longer than we.
We'll bring you news stories every day throughout the month of February. You can also catch more coverage on Pattern. Here's what's ahead today at noon. a popular furniture retailer up a little bit later. But first, you got to keep an eye on what's going on in the west, Jim. Lots of precipitation, whether you're talking about the rain or the wintry type.
Holy smoke, yeah.
Miles an hour outside of severe.
Non-thunderstorm, yep.
You're going to have problems regardless.
Yep.
Well, thanks to our virtual view technology, I'm standing in LA where rounds of rain will funnel in, have already been funneling in, and that's going to fuel a flood threat for Southern California. You want to be on the lookout for coastal flooding as well. There's also the risk for landslides and mudslides. Ventura County needs to be on very high alert. The flood watches are up and the rain will continue for the next few days. So I know we're just kind of tossing it all at you guys, but there's a lot to take in, so we want to make sure you're ready for it, especially when you're talking about the type of rainfall that we've already seen during this wet season. You can see February really sticking out. Typically for the month to date in February, we'd have over 2 inches of rain. Instead, we're at 10.5 inches. So you can tell that ground is so saturated from that atmospheric river that we had earlier this month. So when you're adding on more rain, you know that's going to cause problems, flash flooding possibilities throughout today into early tomorrow. LA, Long Beach, Santa Ana, Newport, all included in that. And here's why. That rain already coming in this morning for your morning commute. It's sticking around for your afternoon commute today. And then we do it all over again on Tuesday. Heavy at times. Will you get some breaks here or there? Yes, you will. But these rounds of heavy rain are going to be sticking around until at least early Wednesday. So keep that in mind as you're planning out your commute, as you're getting to or from wherever you need to go. Those roads are going to be wet and that rain's going to be pretty continual. We'll have 1 to 2 inches. This is a broad brush forecast. I think we're going to see some locally higher amounts almost certainly. Looking a bit farther north up around San Francisco into Sacramento, as mentioned, you've got that wind advisory for Sacramento. Could have those gusts up to 50 miles an hour just outside of any severe weather. And then we also have torcons of 2 to 3 for this area. I can't stress this enough. It's not unheard of, but it's rare enough that you need to have a plan in place ahead of time. If you're in this area shaded in the 3 torcon, know where you go in your home if you find yourself in a tornado warning or even, Jim, a severe thunderstorm warning with that possibility for those damaging wind gusts.
Yeah, and they might even mention it.
But we head overseas for Monday morning front lines. Wildfires are forcing crazy weather around the world, and we've got our own to talk more about coming up, Jim.
Yeah, again, we're going to focus.
Now let's take a look ahead to the T-Mobile coast-to-coast forecast and give you a peek at temperatures in your area as you plan your travel for the week ahead, because as Jim has mentioned, it's going to be a little bit of an up and down for some of us. Here's what we're looking at today. You can see the big focus of most of our active weather out west, stretching into portions of the Rockies. Quiet for much of the country. This is what we're looking at by tomorrow. Mid-60s in Kansas City. You can see that warmth spreading north into places like Chicago. NYC 36 for you for tomorrow. By Wednesday, hump day, we're still seeing some of that active weather for the western portions of the country. Looking east, 68 in Kansas City. Beautiful, beautiful midweek. By Thursday, we've got rain overspreading the Ohio River Valley. That is going to be a cold rain for some of us. Meanwhile, 50 degrees in Denver, 52 for Denver on Friday as well. Miami, you're up into the lower 80s. Meanwhile, the rest of the eastern portions of the country on Friday are looking at rain and even the possibility for some active weather and winter weather across the Northeast. Saturday looks gorgeous. We've already had some reports of, rocks across the highway, the flooding that's going on. So it's already messy. Especially around the burn areas where we've had fires. You have that lack of vegetation holding everything in to the slope side. And we've already seen tremendous amounts of rain in the southern part of California, with more to come as that storm moves ashore. Now, we have flood watches up for wide areas, but we are also already seeing flood warnings. You see this here, flash flood warning for Santa Barbara and Ventura counties. This has been ongoing for a while. This is until 10:30 local time, and it is observed. So there is flash flooding ongoing. That's not just radar indicated there. Montecito seeing anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. We remember what happened there several years ago, the deadly mudslide. We are going to be monitoring all this rain. Santa Barbara County just continuing that flood warning right through later this morning. And there are all the reports compiled by the Weather Service affecting some of the highways and streets here. Yeah, you're seeing the flooding, the boulders across the highway. And it's not just the flooding that we're concerned with, but it's also other types of severe weather. The hail, the gusty winds for the Sacramento Valley, and also that isolated tornado threat. It can happen. We've seen it before. This time of year, it is our rainy season, our stormy time of year, so tornadoes cannot be ruled out. As we look at the wind profile for a place like Sacramento, we have winds accelerating in speed with height and a little bit of turning going on as well. Yeah, we've got the perfect setup for some feisty storms, so make sure you know where to go in your home if you find yourself in a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. It's going to be ongoing throughout the day today. Will it be raining everywhere all the time? No, but will you have those pockets of heavy rain continuing? Yes. And there will be heavy snow
snow for the Sierra. Speaking of which,
I've ever seen one. Maybe you're a passenger on an airline today, and hopefully you're not dealing with any of these airport impacts weather-wise anyways. Now, we're expecting most of the weather-related air impacts to be along the West Coast. You can see some of our major hubs, LAX, SFO included in that, but Salt Lake City, you can see some of those weather-related impacts, and still some of those impacts hanging around there in Central Florida after a rough day for South Florida yesterday. Had a little bit of lake effect snow hanging out, but that is starting to dwindle. When I say it's dwindling, I mean that the actual snow falling from the sky is dwindling because the snow that has fallen is hanging around over a foot in Watertown, and with temperatures like we have out there this morning, that is going to stick around. You want to bundle up as you're heading out the door. Jim.
All right, winter isn't the bull.
All that coming up, but first we got to take a look at what is going on in terms of that snow coming down. If you're a skier, you might be excited about this, Jim.